if I as a woman am speaking to another woman clearly with intention and saying what I mean and called a bitch, then how the frick am I ever gonna do that in a room full of men and be respected? Hello beautiful people and welcome back to my channel. My name's Kira. Subscribe if you're new, and without further ado, let's get into the video. So today I wanted to give some tips to women about how to take up space. And I don't just mean physically, I also mean vocally, mentally, all the ways. Why? Because I think our society tries to shrink women as best as it can, make women into these teeny tiny little convenient dolls that you can easily move around and manipulate and step over, and I don't want that. So, and I think that I happen to be a woman that is pretty loud and takes up a lot of space. I'm also pretty tall. So, but yeah, and I just think there's a few ways that I see women accepting the shrinkage and allowing the shrinkage when they don't need to. And there's ways to expand. Whenever, there's a saying I have, whenever the option is to shrink or expand, always choose to expand. So, yeah, let's get into it. And I think it's important to remember this happens in every facet of life. Like, this happens in everyday interactions as well as online. There's different ways that women are taught to shrink. Obviously, a lot of this has to do with using your voice and being loud. So a few ways that I see women, I'm going to call this accepting the shrinkage. And what I mean by that is not that you are choosing to be small. It's more that you have maybe adopted some of society's standards for how you're supposed to speak or how you're supposed to be. And maybe you have made that your normal. And I challenge you to question that normal. So let's talk about school. Let's talk about class. You raise your hand. This could even just be a cool experiment, especially if you're at Zoom University right now. Notice how the men ask questions in your class versus how the women or the female identifying people ask questions in your class. And is there a difference? 9 out of 10 times there are. At least for my college experience. Why am I saying at least? Like, I don't know this. Most of the time, and at least this happened in my college experience, you have the frat boy raising his hand, says something ridiculous like it's fact. Sometimes it's not ridiculous, I'll be fair. Sometimes it's not ridiculous. But it's interesting how confident they can be with thoughts that maybe aren't that radical or whatever. And then you might have the really smart girl raising her hand saying, well, I don't know if this is true and correct me if I'm wrong and like, I'm not really sure, but I think that la-di-da-di-da. And my question is, why do we have to have that? Why do we have to have that intro of doubt? Why do we have to have that, well, I'm not really sure, and I'm not sure if blah, 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 and sorry if da-da-da-da-da. I literally made a whole dance about this. I choreographed a whole piece where we recorded each of us saying, like, beginnings of sentences, like, sorry, but I don't mean to bother you, but I was wondering if maybe da-da-da-da-da, kind of emulating the way women in this society are taught to speak and ask questions, is to be timid and apologetic. And I challenge you to just fucking drop it. We don't need that. That's not serving us. And you're not gonna get, I'm not gonna say you're not gonna, it depends where you are probably. Personally, I haven't gotten too much pushback from that. From just being like, hey, this is what I think. That's all you have to do. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be aggressive, but you can be if it calls for it, and that's okay. Because if a man did it, no one would say shit. So I would like for us to put a little bit more responsibility on ourselves for acting as if that makes sense. So obviously, we're not equal in this country. No, we're not. Ruth Bader Ginsburg just died. And the future of America, pretty bleak. But what can we do? We can start acting as if. And you can start embodying the power that you deserve, even if the country hasn't fully recognized it yet, or you really don't get fair compensation for being a human being working. But you can act as if, and I think it will help. Personally, I think it will help. Because if we continue to accept the shrinkage and continue to play by these rules, the master's rules will never dismantle the master's house. That is an Audre Lorde quote. Meaning, if you keep playing by the rules that are oppressing you, you're going to stay oppressed. You've got to break those rules in order to be free. I made it sound like it was easy. Clearly it's not. But speak loud and don't apologize. I think that can start in class. That can go anywhere. That can go in your interactions with men on the daily. Stop being like, I'm sorry, but blah, 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 blah. I was wondering if blah, 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 blah. Don't intro with a timid statement. Just be there and be full and fully say, I want this. I require this. I need this. These are my standards. And if someone's not meeting those standards, say, hey, you're not meeting my standards. Pick it up. Instead of, hey, I'm really sorry to bother you, but could you maybe do this thing and blah, 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 blah. And here's the big thing I want to get to, actually. I think a big part of this whole communication with men, with whoever, I think a lot of it has been so internalized that this is the way we communicate with each other. Like, woman to woman, that code is pretty messed up. And it's very, you can't really say what you mean, and you have to be very timid, and you have to tiptoe around your feelings and kind of just sprinkle in the point nicely with a sugar coat, as opposed to, this is the point. This is what I'm feeling. This is what you did that made me feel like this. Or this is what needs to happen. This is what I require. These are my standards. And even when women communicate with each other, I notice this a lot, like, literally everywhere. Whether it's in group chats, this, that, the other. Is this, like, this weird kind of way of just weaving around what we really want to say and knowing that we're weaving around it, but continuing to weave around it because it's girl code. And I think that's dumb. And I don't think we need to do that. And I know that we don't want to hurt each other's feelings, but let's be honest. We can be hurt even if somebody is hiding the point. And we can be hurt by what someone's saying even if it's passive aggressive and if the point is sprinkled in there. We still know, because we've it's like a weird language that we've come up with where we say things but we're not really saying what we mean, but you can kind of tell what we mean by the undertone. And then, like, someone I feel like there's a lot of movies and shows that play on this where, like, a girl will read a text that's from another girl that's really nice, and then the girl's like, oh my god, I can't believe she said that, because it's a code. It's coded language. It's literally a whole different language we've come up with where it's like nobody really says what they really mean, and you're not allowed to say what you really mean with full force, otherwise you're a bitch. You're aggressive. You're a bitch. You're this, you're that. Why can't we all just say what we mean and not judge each other for it first? Because if I as a woman am speaking to another woman clearly with intention and saying what I mean and called a bitch, then how the frick am I ever going to do that in a room full of men and be respected? We have to have each other's back and have a bar for ourselves before we could ever expect the rest of the world to allow us to take up space. If we don't let each other take up space. Does that make sense? Say yes. That's how I feel. I think start to take up space even in spaces full of women. I think that's a good, like, first step. And until we do that, no way in hell are we going to be able to take up spaces filled with men if we can't even take up spaces filled with us. without feeling judged and criticized. Because we understand each other. We get it. But we're still, why are we still trying to make each other shrink? That doesn't make any sense. So just a thought, and I just think it's okay to be direct. And if the message isn't pleasant, whatever. We deserve to be allowed to be honest and to be heard. And that starts with just us. And then it grows larger. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. So yeah, I challenge you to take up space in your conversations and say what you mean. To your friends, to everyone in your classrooms. Raise your hand. Say your thought. Don't apologize for it. Don't apologize. Don't apologize for anything that doesn't deserve an apology. Don't apologize for existing and for breathing and for taking up space. Don't do that. Because then people get used to that. And they'll shrink you. Anyway. Yeah. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. Like this video down below if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe, share, comment if you have something to say. And yeah, I love you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.